Google is eating Apple's ecosystem for lunch. Are you sure about that? Hey, what is going on, guys? Futures Tech here, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about a blog post that has a very interesting title. So basically, this blog post is about a beautiful journey that this man and his wife made, leaving the Apple ecosystem and onto this new and beautiful Google ecosystem. Listen, I'm a fan of Google. I love what Google is doing. But you cannot tell me that Google has a better ecosystem than Apple. Apple's company is built around this entire ecosystem. It's why they can sell products that seem subpar from a distance. People will buy a MacBook that has worse specs than other laptops and is 2 times as much because it ties into this ecosystem. You cannot tell me that Google's ecosystem is better. So let's jump into this. First, I want to say, Owen, the writer of this blog post, did not mention owning an iPad, an Apple Watch, a HomePod, or AirPods. Now, granted, the HomePod was not out yet. This blog post was posted January 17th, 2018. So the HomePod was still a few weeks away, but all he had was an iPhone and a Mac. So keep that in mind while we're going through this together. All right, so 80% of this article is basically praising the Google Assistant. He hardly talks about the Pixel or anything like that. He pretty much just talks about the Google Home the whole time and their cloud service. So pretty early in the article, he writes, I can just use my voice to ask if there are new messages, set reminders, or listen to new music. Okay, first of all, I just want to tell you, buddy, congratulations. Every virtual assistant can do that. Yes, including Siri. Siri can do all of those things. She can even send messages, which your Google Assistant cannot do. And you don't even need a HomePod to do that, because most people carry their phones in their pockets, okay? So all you have to do is say that magic phrase and ask her to do anything. And if you don't have her on your pocket, you probably have an Apple Watch. And if you don't have one of those, I'm sorry, get a HomePod. And if you don't have one of those, are you really invested in the Apple ecosystem to begin with? And I'd also like to mention, an iPhone can hear you from quite a while away, okay? You can have that thing sitting on your kitchen counter, be in the living room, and say that magic phrase, and she'll probably hear you. You just may not be able to hear her if the volume's not up all the way. Okay, so he later writes, having recently come from Siri, I grew accustomed to never using Apple's voice assistant. It's pretty good at understanding you, but not reliable and doesn't do much in the way of useful activities. Okay, first of all, I would just like to ask what useful activities are, because Apple's voice assistant can do quite a few things. Let me list some of them for you. She can set timers, she can set reminders, she can send messages, she can read messages, she can read emails, she can send emails, she can play music from Apple Music, and she can turn on and off any smart appliance that's HomeKit enabled. Okay? Those are some pretty useful things if you ask me. But let me know what you think useful means in the comments down below. I'd love to hear. And to the whole part about Siri not being very reliable, I haven't had bad luck with that. She's understood me pretty well. Maybe if you have a thick accent, I can understand that. But I have had no problems with Siri misunderstanding me. Okay, so let's continue. Further down this article, he writes, I say, okay Google, goodbye, when I'm leaving, and it turns off all the lights as well as the TV. Upon return, it's programmed to turn on a handful of lights automatically when it detects proximity. Okay, I would just like to say that, wow. That is incredible. That is just the most amazing thing I've ever heard in my life. I cannot believe the Google Assistant can do that. It's just a shame that Apple can do it too, okay? You can literally say that exact phrase to Siri with HomeKit, and she will do the exact same thing he just said. And when you leave, you have your phone in your pocket that has GPS. And then when you come back, it knows that you're home, and it will turn back on what it turned off, or whatever you have set to turn back on. And on top of that, you can say good night or good morning to Siri, and then she'll do set program things as well. For instance, you could say good night, and then she will turn off all the lights, set the thermostat to a reasonable temperature, close all the shades, lock your doors, turn off appliances and TVs. I mean, I can go on and on. There is nothing exclusive to Google there. But let's move on. He also writes, Apple's photo ecosystem works fully if you have a Mac, but most amusingly must reanalyze all of your photos repeatedly as it doesn't synchronize the machine learning state at all. And then continues, even if you're okay with that, it's impossible to maintain a photo library of a reasonable size with a Mac app because it requires the library to live in a single localized place. My library now exceeds the size of almost all MacBook hard drives, rendering it useless. First of all, I want to say, Mac app? Buddy, I think you're referring to the app called Photos, and that's what it's called on every iOS device. Secondly, you do not need to store the photos on a Mac, and you do not need a Mac. You can take pictures with your iPhone, and they will be in the cloud. You don't have to store them on your phone. You can store them in an iCloud drive. If you have a Mac, that's all well, and you don't have to store them on the Mac. You can store them in iCloud, and they won't be on the Mac. You can view them on the Mac, but you can set it to where they're not actually stored on the Mac. There is literally a setting that says optimize storage, and it will take all photos on the Mac, put them in your iCloud library, and they will no longer be stored on the Mac. I do not understand. It's like this guy wasn't even trying. This seems like the laziest article I have ever read. He did not put any thought into anything he did. This was written in January 2018. Everything he's brought up so far, Apple can do. Okay, this is not exclusive to Google. Okay, so let's move on. He later writes, so I went all in with Google Photos. For a generous $10 per month, I get 1 terabyte of storage, which felt cheaper than doing on iCloud because that storage is shared across other cloud apps I actually use, including Gmail Drive and others. Okay, first of all, for $10, Apple will give you 2 terabytes. That is double the storage. Second of all, if you have your lovely wife who is in an iCloud family with you, she can share that and you don't have to pay $20 a month for you both to have a terabyte of storage. Also, Gmail can be stored in iCloud storage. And iCloud literally has something called iCloud Drive. It's called iCloud Drive on macOS and it's called Files on iOS. So you can put anything you want in your iCloud storage. It's not just photos, it's not just Apple things. And you still don't need a Mac. You do not need a Mac to do any of this. Everything I've said so far does not require a Mac. Okay, so I'm gonna quit ranting about this article. I'm gonna quit bashing the poor guy who wrote it. But people, wake up. The Google ecosystem, if you even want to call it an ecosystem, does not even come close to the Apple ecosystem. It doesn't even compete. I mean, I can get a text on my iPhone, and I can see that text on my Apple Watch, my iPhone, my iPad, my Mac, and I can reply on my Apple Watch, iPhone, iPad, or Mac. It doesn't matter. They're all synced together. That's an ecosystem. I can also copy something on my phone. I can take something that I want to paste on a Mac or on a MacBook or on an iPad, and I can copy it on my iPhone. And then when I open up my Mac and I hit paste, it pastes what I copied on the iPhone. Okay? Try and do that with the Google Pixel XL and a Chromebook or any laptop for that matter. And on top of that, my reminders, my calendars, my notes, messages, photos, music, news, mail, health information, and Safari bookmarks are on every single one of my Apple devices. They all sync. You can airdrop something to any iOS device, not just yours, but a friend's, a family member's, anyone's iOS device, as long as they have it turned on and accept contacts or everyone, either one, using Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, whichever is faster. Meaning, you can be in the middle of nowhere with no service, no internet connectivity at all, and send someone a raw 4K at 60 FPS video shot on an iPhone or on anything by that matter, as long as it's on your phone, and airdrop it to someone who is next to you via Bluetooth and not lose an ounce of quality. That goes for pictures, files, anything on your iPhone. You can airdrop it to that person. You will not lose an ounce of quality, and you don't need cell service or internet connectivity. No other phone can do that, because that's something exclusive to the Apple ecosystem. If you have an Apple TV, you can AirPlay something from any of your iOS devices onto the TV instantly and seamlessly. But the point is, you cannot convince me that the Google ecosystem comes even close to the Apple ecosystem. They are two completely separate things, and one is clearly better than the other. Now, whether you decide that the Apple ecosystem fits your needs, that doesn't matter to me. But don't tell me that the Google ecosystem is better in any way, because the Apple ecosystem does everything the Google ecosystem does and more. The Apple ecosystem is miles ahead of any ecosystem out there. Miles ahead of the competition. If you just get an iPhone and that's it, you don't have a Mac, you don't have an iPad, you don't have an Apple Watch, you don't have AirPods, you don't have a HomePod, nothing else. Yeah, iPhone's okay. Man, it's an okay phone. Get an S9, it's better. But when you throw an iPad into the mix, you throw a Mac into the mix, a smartwatch, an Apple Watch into the mix, that iPhone instantly becomes better, because it is now part of an ecosystem that is unparalleled from any ecosystem out there. But anyway, I'm sorry for the rant, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up. Leave me a like if you thought this was useful information, or you learned something today, or you just liked what I had to say. Leave me a dislike if you're just a huge Google ecosystem fanboy and I hurt your feelings, or you don't like my hair or something. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Was I too harsh on the article? Is Google ecosystem better? Did I leave something out? Let me know. Later, guys.